Have you ever wondered about the man who completely changed how we see the world and our place in it? Today, we're taking a unique journey back in time. Imagine we could sit down with the legendary Charles Darwin himself, flipping through a photo album of his incredible life. We're going to explore the story behind the genius, from his early days as a curious boy to the revolutionary ideas that shook the foundations of science. Hi everyone, I am Uğur Ergünay. So, grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's turn the pages on the life of Charles Darwin. Let's start at the very beginning. Charles, born in Shrewsbury, England, in 1809. He wasn't exactly what you'd call a star student. His father, a successful doctor, once told him, "You care for nothing but shooting, dogs and rat catching, and you will be a disgrace to yourself and all your family." Young Charles was far more interested in the natural world than in his classical studies. He loved collecting beetles, shells and minerals. He and his older brother Erasmus even set up a chemistry lab in their garden shed, earning him the nickname Gas at school. He was a boy driven by curiosity, not by the classroom curriculum. His father, hoping to steer him toward a respectable career, sent him to the University of Edinburgh to study medicine. But Charles found the lectures dull and couldn't stand the sight of surgery, which was performed without anesthesia back then. It was clear that medicine wasn't his calling. His father then sent him to Cambridge University to study theology, with the hope that he would become a country parson. This seemed like a decent fit. A clergyman in the countryside would have plenty of free time to pursue his passion for natural history. And at Cambridge, Darwin's passion truly ignited. He fell in with a crowd of influential scientists, most notably the botanist John Stevens Henslow. Henslow became his mentor, nurturing Darwin's interest in the natural world and teaching him the importance of careful observation and collection. He also encouraged Darwin to study geology under the great Adam Sedgwick. Darwin started to see the world not as a static creation, but as an ancient, ever-changing landscape shaped by immense forces over millions of years. This geological perspective would be crucial for his later work. He was no longer just a collector of beetles. He was becoming a true scientist, learning to ask big questions about the world around him. And then came the opportunity of a lifetime. In 1831, Professor Henslow recommended Darwin for a position as the ship's naturalist aboard the HMS Beagle. The ship was set for a 5-year voyage to chart the coastline of South America. Darwin's father was initially dead set against it, thinking it was just another one of Charles's pointless adventures. But with the help of his uncle, Josiah Wedgwood, Darwin managed to persuade his father. At just 22 years old, he packed his bags, his notebooks, and his scientific instruments, and set sail on a journey that would not only define his life, but also reshape human understanding. The young man who left England was an amateur naturalist with a thirst for adventure. The man who returned 5 years later would be a seasoned scientist holding the seeds of a revolutionary idea. The voyage of the Beagle was anything but a pleasure cruise. Darwin suffered terribly from seasickness, the ship was cramped, and the journey was long and often dangerous. But for Darwin, it was a living laboratory. He spent every moment he could on land, exploring lush rainforests, arid deserts, and towering mountains. He collected thousands of specimens of plants, animals, insects, and fossils. In Argentina, he unearthed the fossilized bones of gigantic extinct mammals, like the Megatherium, a giant ground sloth. He wondered why these massive creatures had disappeared and why they seemed so similar, yet different, to the sloths he saw living in the trees above. He experienced a massive earthquake in Chile and saw firsthand how the land could be lifted by geological forces, reinforcing the ideas he'd learned from geology. He was witnessing an ancient, dynamic world in action. The most famous stop on this epic journey, of course, was the Galapagos Islands, a remote volcanic archipelago in the Pacific Ocean. Here, Darwin found a world that seemed almost alien. He observed giant tortoises whose shell shapes varied from island to island. He saw marine iguanas, the only lizards on Earth that feed in the sea, but it was the birds that truly captured his attention. He collected several species of small, rather drab-looking birds. He initially thought they were a mix of finches, wrens, and blackbirds. He didn't think much of them at the time, but he dutifully collected specimens from the different islands. He noted that their beaks were all slightly different. Some had strong, thick beaks, perfect for cracking nuts, while others had slender, pointed beaks ideal for picking insects. It was only when he returned to London and showed his collection to an expert ornithologist, John Gould, that the true significance of these birds was revealed. Back in London, Darwin was in for a shock. John Gould informed him that the birds he had collected from the Galapagos were not different types of birds at all. They were all finches, a dozen or so new species found nowhere else on Earth. And what's more, they were all closely related. Darwin was stunned. Why would there be so many different but related species of finches on this small cluster of islands? He began to piece together the clues. He remembered the tortoises, how their shells were adapted to the environment of each specific island. He thought about the mockingbirds, which also varied from island to island. The puzzle pieces started to click into place. He theorized that a single ancestral species of finch must have arrived on the islands long ago. Over time, their descendants had spread to the different islands, and on each island they adapted to the specific food sources available. Birds with beaks better suited to the local food survived and reproduced, passing on their advantageous traits. Over countless generations, these small changes accumulated, leading to the emergence of entirely new species, the birth of a world-changing idea. Darwin now had a mechanism to explain how species could change over time, but he needed a name for it. He spent the next 2 decades back in England, living a quiet life, marrying his cousin, Emma Wedgwood, and raising a large family. But all the while, he was secretly, obsessively working on his big book. He studied barnacles for 8 years straight, becoming the world's leading expert. He corresponded with breeders of pigeons, farmers, and naturalists all over the world, gathering evidence. He read an essay by the economist Thomas Malthus, who argued that human populations grow faster than their food supply, leading to a struggle for existence. Darwin realized this struggle applied to all of nature. In this struggle, any individual with a slight advantage, however small, would have a better chance of surviving and passing that advantage to its offspring. He called this process natural selection. For 20 years, Darwin hesitated to publish his theory. He knew how controversial it would be. The idea that life evolved through a natural, unguided process directly challenged the religious and scientific beliefs of the time. He called it like confessing a murder. He was a respectable, well-liked member of the scientific establishment and a devoted family man. He feared the backlash and the distress it would cause his devout wife, Emma. He just kept gathering more and more evidence, endlessly refining his argument, wanting his case to be absolutely ironclad before he presented it to the world. But in 1858, his hand was forced. He received a letter from a young naturalist named Alfred Russel Wallace, who was working in modern-day Indonesia. In the letter, Wallace outlined a theory of evolution by natural selection that was nearly identical to Darwin's own. Darwin was horrified. All his years of work were about to be scooped. Urged on by his friends, Darwin agreed to a joint presentation of his and Wallace's work. Then he worked to finish his book. In 1859, On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection was finally published. The book was an immediate sensation. It sold out on the first day. The reaction was explosive. Some scientists hailed it as a brilliant breakthrough. Others, especially in the church, condemned it as heresy. The idea that humans were not a special creation, but had descended from ape-like ancestors was particularly shocking to the Victorian public. Darwin himself largely stayed out of the public debates, letting his allies, like the fiery biologist Thomas Henry Huxley, known as Darwin's bulldog, fight the battles for him. The book sparked a debate that continues to this day, fundamentally changing biology, religion, philosophy, and our very sense of self. In his later years, Darwin continued his research, publishing books on everything from the fertilization of orchids to the expression of emotions in humans and animals. He remained a devoted husband and father, finding immense joy in his family and his work at his home in the English countryside. He passed away in 1882 at the age of 73. In a remarkable tribute to his impact on the nation and the world, he was buried in Westminster Abbey next to other giants of science like Isaac Newton. From the curious boy who loved collecting beetles to the reluctant revolutionary who explained the very fabric of life, Charles Darwin's journey was as remarkable as the theory he gave to the world. He taught us to see nature not as a fixed and perfect creation, but as a dynamic, unfolding story of struggle, survival, and magnificent change. A story that we are all a part of. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of a true pioneer. Don't forget to follow my channel. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from the history of science. See you next time.